Well, Merry Thanksgiving, everybody. Is that too soon? I mean, it's just a combination of the next 2 months, so... some people think we just jump ahead to Christmas and we leave that out. So for those of you who are already, you've got the tree up, you've had it up for 2 months, and you've already been, like you, listening to Christmas music since October 1st.
You got to start early. There's a lot of Christmas songs. All right, you can't fit them all into just 1 month.
That's true. I agree. So since in order to accommodate those who already want it to be Christmas, as well as those who love Thanksgiving, and Merry Thanksgiving, Lee.
Merry Thanksgiving.
This is Stephen Bell with Voice of Camp Nathaniel, and with me as always is the ready for this one?
Okay.
The cornucopious
Lee Sharp.
I made one up.
I know what a cornucopia is. Is the weird cone shaped.
Come on.
Thing? Is it a basket?
No one knows what it is.
Is it a basket? Is it a gourd?
No, I don't know. In fact, I looked it up just a while ago, and a cornucopia, all right, is that thing that everybody sees around harvest time. I looked it up. I Googled it a while ago, and
what is it?
It called it a goat horn. I don't know. It said it was a goat horn.
I've seen. I have seen goats before.
I know, but it says a symbol of plenty consisting of a goat's horn overflowing with flowers, fruit, and corn. I've never seen one be a goat's horn. I've always seen it some kind of wicker. You think it's a basket, but
basket that looks like a horn. Is that the idea?
I guess, but apparently it's supposed to be, according to Google, a goat's horn.
A goat's horn, but goats aren't that big. So what do they got? Giant goats running around somewhere?
You know what? I just figured, I need an adjective that is Thanksgiving related, and I thought, you know what? Let's just make one up and let's use something from Thanksgiving. And so I thought of the cornucopia.
The cornucopia.
So you are for this episode the cornucopious.
Yeah.
You're full of plenty.
There we go. I'll take it.
Oh, goodness, about fell backwards.
Stephen is falling over in his chair right now.
Hey, it's the Thanksgiving episode of the Voice of Camp Nathaniel coming at you here on November the 15th. Man, we've had a blast with Roy Hodson over the past 2 episodes, finishing up the history of Camp Nathaniel. We hope you guys have enjoyed that. But hey, we are just the 15th, so we are 13 days away from Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving's late this year, isn't it?
It is a little bit later.
It's a little bit late this year. So, but hey, this is the opportunity where we get to come and talk about all things Thanksgiving, and so we're set to go, man. It's just me and you today.
It's just me and you.
So we don't have anybody in the studio with us. So this is all you guys have got. So enjoy it.
You make it sound like you were apologizing to them for...
I'm not apologizing
I'm
for anything.
sorry that you only get to hear from Lee and Steven today.
This is the most cornucopious episode of the Voice of Camp Nathaniel ever. So you guys enjoy it. Lee, what's going on, man?
All right, so I went through and prepared the next few episodes just because they're a little bit different.
They are
than
different.
Some of our other episodes. Usually we'll have a guest in and we get to fire off all our questions at them. And then when it gets to just us, it's like, okay, well, we gotta plan a little bit more because otherwise it's just going to turn into ramblings.
That's true. Case in point, the first 3.5 minutes of this episode.
It's just us rambling about nonsense and pretending that Christmas comes up now. And all the different things.
Do you have your tree up already?
I do not have the tree up
right
now. As we're recording this. Now, by the time the episode premieres, we probably will have the tree up. But that's because we've got a Christmas party that we try to plan early. And we're trying to plan parties and get things ready and whatnot. And you gotta start early. If you can't do that the day before.
It's
just too much work.
You make a good point.
It's too much work.
All right. So what are we talking about today, man?
So we are talking all things Thanksgiving, and we'll talk a little bit about camp and some of the exciting things to be thankful for, because obviously during Thanksgiving, you want to take time to stop and reflect and be thankful and remember all of the wonderful things that are happening. And sure, there might be some not great things that have happened throughout the year, but there's always something to stop and go, hey, I'm really glad that happened, or I'm really thankful for this or that. And so I was just going to go through, we were going to look at a few things that have happened this year, and I might peg you with a few questions
absolutely.
of things that you may be thankful for, because you helped out with quite a few things at camp this past year.
That's true. That's true. And you know what? I'll just throw this in here too. I'm thankful that Thanksgiving is in the same month as Election Day, because it really kind of helps put things into perspective. Because we're seeing so many people after the election, whether they're glad it went one way or they're sad that it went one way, but we can all stop and just thank God for the fact that He's in control of all things, and that nothing is outside of His, nothing takes Him by surprise, and we can just be thankful to Him for what He does. So I like that, the fact that they're both in the same month there, because again, it puts things into perspective.
So as we're thinking about Thanksgiving, I'll ask one not as serious question first off here.
Okay.
All right. Because with Thanksgiving, the main thing that pops up in my, obviously you want to be thankful for all the different things.
Absolutely.
But then there's also the meal that comes up on Thanksgiving Day.
There we go.
So I just have to ask, Stephen, what is, in your opinion, the best part of the Thanksgiving meal? What's the food that's number one?
Oh, man. You know what? Here's the thing.
And there's a right answer.
I know what your answer is, and you and I will have a strong disagreement here, because I just think you're gross at this point.
It's because you brought up politics, so if you want to do controversial things now,
all right, let's disagree.
Let's disagree.
All right. Well, I already know what you're going with, because, like I said, you're weird like that, man. I love you, but you're weird like that. For me, you know what? Turkey's not my big thing.
Okay.
I'm not a huge turkey fan. I like it.
So do you prefer like ham? Is there, you know, like if you could pick one or the two?
I would prefer turkey to be grilled than roasted.
Okay.
You know, in my opinion. But anywho, but I would, I'll eat both, but I prefer turkey later with mayonnaise on 2 pieces of bread. That's how I prefer my turkey.
You want the Thanksgiving leftovers.
There you go. Absolutely. For me, it's, I go to a side dish, as you do too. But for me, I really like broccoli casserole.
Okay.
Love it. Love broccoli casserole.
Now, how is it fixed? Because see, here's the thing. When it comes to Thanksgiving dinner.
Yep.
And I found this with different mission members and at camp from all different parts of the country. What's really funny is that when it gets around Thanksgiving time, everyone is very adamant about what should be the side dishes at the Thanksgiving table.
Yeah.
And there's some people that are real big on it's got to be the green bean casserole, or it's got to be the sweet potatoes with the marshmallows on top. It's got to be this. It's got to be.
That's more of a dessert, I think, in my opinion.
But there are people that will argue with you over this.
They will.
And they're adamant about it because, of course, in different parts of the country, you serve different foods. And that's the way it's always been. And it's real fun when we all get together and we try to fix a meal together, because it's like, but if it's going to be Thanksgiving, then you have to have.
Well, speaking of things you have to have, why don't you go ahead and tell them what you like, Lee? Because I've already, you know, kind of thrown you under the bus a little bit in regards to what you like.
You also called it a side dish.
Is it not a side dish?
No, of course it's not a side dish.
Is it a garnish? What is it?
No. The most wonderful part of the Thanksgiving dinner is the cranberry sauce.
Oh, gosh.
And the reason that it's not a side dish, and this is my defense for why it is the superior food, it's not a side dish, it's the center dish. Because you put it in the middle of your plate, because it goes with everything on your plate.
All right. Well, we can agree to disagree here today.
And I'm not even talking about it has to be homemade. It can be the stuff right out of the can. That looks still like in the shape of the can.
That fits the mold. Oh, maybe that's why I don't like it. It still looks like the can when it comes out.
Too gelatin-like.
Way too gelatin for me. All right, so maybe you've got your own side dish that you like. You can if there's a place to comment on this episode, let us know. That'd be great.
Feel free to let us know if how right or wrong you think that we are on these opinions.
Feel free.
But looking back at this past year, there's been a lot of stuff that's happened at camp.
There has been. There's always a lot of stuff that happens in camp, and we even had some new stuff happen at camp this past year.
We've had some new stuff.
Yeah.
Starting this year, we had our first college retreat.
Man, and that was great.
Which we already talked about it a little bit, but like it was. I think we're trying to do it again.
Yeah, it was a great success, man. Had a great number of college kids here for the first one out. Kurt Vernon, a good friend of ours, came in and did both worship and spoke for it. Man, it was just really good because that's something that people had been. That high school campers, every single time it's their last year, they're like, you got to do a college event, do a college event, do a college event. And this time we did, man. And there was a lot of people came out for it. It was great.
It was a ton of fun mixing in there. Kurt also does a lot of music. He didn't ask us to do this, but if you look him up on Spotify, you can see some of the different music.
Kurt Vernon.
Little promo there for him. He's a good guy. He's like 9 foot tall or something like that.
He's the happiest, tallest man you'll ever meet. Yeah.
He gives you a hug. It feels like you're getting hugged by a bear.
It does. And it feels like you're 10 stories off the ground.
Little bear hug there.
Yeah, just a little bit.
I know that we had a lot of, and these are somewhat, they're not new per se, but they've been doing a lot of new things, like the women's ministry and the men's ministry. I know that the women's ministry has had a whole lot more retreats and conferences, which actually...
They did an overnight.
Overnight
retreat.
And I think they've got a conference or event that's going to be coming up in December, which I think I'm going to bring Harley in, and she's going to talk a little bit about December 7th, I think.
In Leslie County, correct?
Or I think it's here at camp.
Oh, is it here at camp?
Well, when Harley gets in here, she will correct us.
Don't trust us.
Obviously, we're not on the committee making these decisions for the women's ministry. They didn't ask our opinion on that, nor do they need to. We don't need to be making those choices.
Yeah, we just need to read the headlines and leave it at that, don't we?
The men's event had, we continued similar to what we did last year, and I think we're going to plan on continuing that this year.
Very cool.
With father-son hike that we took, exploring some different parts of campus, which I don't know if we talked about this when we talked about the father-son hike in a podcast in the past, but we took a new route through campus, and
that was pretty cool.
We explored and found where I called it Old Hilltop.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with camp, on Thursday nights or Friday nights, depending on when you came to Camp Nathaniel as a camper, during the summer, it's kind of the final like culmination night of camp, and you go up, there's a big bonfire, you're singing worship songs, you've got time for testimony, it's a time to share and all that sort of good stuff there. And with that, you go up to Hilltop. And once upon a time, Hilltop was across the swinging bridge, and you kind of went up these switchbacks up the side of the mountain there, and you ended at what was Hilltop. Hilltop has been moved to kind of the opposite side of campus now, I'm trying to think of how to describe it. It's up the hill.
Where it is now?
It's up past our Alaska cabin. It's farther back into the woods where it's a little more secluded back there.
Yeah, it's a great setup, man. It really is. For those of you who've been coming to camp for years, you know the gist of it, man. And if you've not been to camp, you need to come check it out. Yeah. It would absolutely be amazing.
The exciting part, though, is that during the father-son hike, we got to walk up past and we found Old Hilltop.
Yeah, very grown over.
It was very grown over, but you could tell as you got up there, you go, okay, this is the flat-ish area where it happened. And we were even talking about ideas of like, what happens if we, and none of this is official yet, but like, what if we cleared off some of this to be able to bring back some of the old Hilltop things, or maybe go camping up there or something like that.
It'd be cool, man.
Just to be able to relive some of those memories, especially for some of our campers who that was their Hilltop.
That's right, yeah.
And being able to bring them back to that spot where they were, where God may have impacted them or where they may have given their life to Christ, be able to go back to that moment there. So that's a possibility. But again, the things that you get thankful for is being able to find and explore and go, man, Old Hilltop is still here, and it's a little rough because there's trees growing over it, but there's a possibility of things there. And then the other big part that I wanted to ask you, as the summer camp director of 2024, this past year,
just a one-time thing for me, man.
One-time thing here. What are some things that maybe stood out as really cool stories from this summer that you're like, man, I'm really thankful, or maybe it's a thanks to some of the staff or the summer missionaries that came in.
Yeah. For me, that was kind of going into to a time where there was a need there, and I was asked to meet that need, and I'm super thankful, man, to be able to have been in that spot, and the Lord, well, it was for that time and for that time only, and now I have the privilege of pastoring First Baptist Hindman. And so I'm no longer in the position of camp director, but for this past summer, first and foremost, the salvations that the Holy Spirit brought about in the lives of students over the summer is always it's the reason that we do every single thing that we do here at camp. Second of all, my personal favorite part of the entire summer was as camp director, not so much pouring into the students, because yes, that is part of the deal, but I absolutely loved being able to pour into the summer missionaries that were here and developing relationships with them and being part of their discipleship while they are here, because they're the ones that are with the students the whole time. They're the ones who are pouring into the campers. We get the opportunity as full-time staff to pour into the summer staff and really see them grow in their own walks with Christ, and to see God do amazing things in and through them. So that was by far my highlight of the entire summer.
And that's a very behind the scenes kind of thing.
Yeah, that's not something that you see happening. That's not something that parents or those who send their kids realize is going on.
Yeah.
But if you are a summer missionary, then you understand just how important those relationships are. It's good stuff, man.
And that's part of the growth there.
Absolutely.
Because as the summer missionaries come in, obviously we've had some, if you want to go back and listen to some of the summer missionary episodes, they talk about the lengthy process to be able to apply and all the different things that go into that.
Yep.
But even after that, there's still the way the Holy Spirit works in you as you're serving and as you're working. It's like there's still room for growth.
Yeah.
The idea here isn't like, oh, well, our summer staff have got it all figured out and everything's great. Sure, they've got a lot of good things figured out. But during that time, we're always pushing them to grow even deeper, and those commitments get even stronger, and their convictions are getting stronger there, and having them grow in that.
Yeah, man, just tons to be thankful for. God is growing people in a lot of different ways, and we're seeing that happen every day here at camp.
Yeah. The other part of this episode here, when I was looking up different things for Thanksgiving, was looking up a few of the different. I was actually using Google, typed in like different thankful psalms. Yeah, psalms, not songs, but I guess they are songs. But
of course, there's songs. Yeah.
Psalms with a P,
right?
And going through some of them, which if you've as you're reading through the Bible, if you haven't read through the Bible before, highly suggest it. Yeah. Especially spending some time in the books of the Psalms. Just a complete side note there, some Bible trivia. How many books are in the Psalms, Stephen? Do you remember? Because it breaks them up into sections.
Are there... Oh, goodness.
I know, I've put him on the spot now.
Why do I want to say 6?
You're close.
7?
Go
5.
Go lower. There's 5.
There's 5. Okay. All right. Good deal.
There are 5 books in the Psalms there.
I'm glad I didn't say like 100.
No. And that's just where the Psalms breaks up into smaller sections for reading and keeping track. And I guess that's their way of how they kept track of all of those Psalms for all those years. And one that stood out probably... there's lots of Psalms about Thanksgiving because the Psalms are recordings of the worship of God throughout a good long chunk of time through Hebrew history. And there are tons of Psalms where they're constantly giving thanks to him. And so one that stood out was Psalm 92. So this is getting towards the end of I guess the middle-ish of the Psalms, because there's 150 of them there. So you're getting towards the 2/3 mark-ish there. And I thought that we'd take the last bit of this podcast and be able to just read through this Psalm and reflect a little bit as we go along through it. We can read through the whole thing, or we can do it section by section. I don't know if you're which way you're wanting to go with it here.
Well, let's read through the whole thing, and then
we'll go back and
let's go back through. All right,
we'll reference the verse numbers as we're talking. That way, if you're sitting at home, feel free to take time, pause the podcast, go get a Bible out, look at it in front of you, because there is something about reading it, but then there's also something about hearing it, and then there's also a whole different factor when you mix both of those dynamics together. You are taking in the Bible with more than just one sense there. So I would encourage you, if you're driving, obviously don't be safe driving. But if you are home right now,
you can listen if you're driving. It's okay.
You can listen. Yes. If you're home now, I'd encourage you, take time to pause the podcast real quick, go grab a Bible, sit down with Psalm 92, and let's read it together.
Awesome.
So I'll read and we'll go from there. So this is Psalm 92, a song for the Sabbath day. It is good to give thanks to the Lord and to sing praises to your name, O Most High, to declare your loving kindness in the morning and your faithfulness every night. On an instrument of 10 strings, on a lute, and on the harp with harmonious sound. For you, Lord, have made me glad through your work. I will triumph in the works of your hands. O Lord, how great are your works! Your thoughts are very deep. A senseless man does not know, nor does a fool understand this. When the wicked spring up like grass, when all the workers of iniquity flourish, it is that they may be destroyed forever. You, Lord, are on high forevermore. For behold your enemies, O Lord, for behold your enemies shall perish. All the workers of iniquity shall be scattered, but my horn you have exalted like a wild ox. I have been anointed with fresh oil. My eye has seen my desire on my enemies. My ears hear my desire on the wicked who rise up against me. The righteous shall flourish like a palm tree. He shall grow like a cedar in Lebanon. Those who are planted in the house of the Lord shall flourish in the courts of our God. They shall bear fruit in old age. They shall be fresh and flourishing, to declare that the Lord is upright. He is my rock, and there is no unrighteousness in him.
There we go, man. Good stuff. One of the first things that I see in that first kind of stanza there that stands out to me is this, to declare, I will sing praises for this purpose.
Yes.
To declare your loving kindness in the morning, your faithfulness every night. And so, the mercies of God are new every morning. We know that from Scripture, and I've always loved the fact that someone pointed out, it says, when it says that word "new" there doesn't mean a fresh batch of the same stuff. It's brand new every morning. That we will never reach the point where we have exercised to the extent of God's blessings and faithfulness. They're just brand new every single day, and so to say that declaring your loving kindness in the morning, and that's a continual thing. It's not just this morning. It's tomorrow morning. It's the day after, as long as the Lord wills, and then your faithfulness every night. It is just a continual song of praise each and every day. Our lives should be, a continual song of praise to Him.
And you're ending with that. The idea is that the way this psalm is written out here, as you are ending your day, if it was a good day, if it was a bad day, if it was an awful day, or maybe it was an amazing day, to declare your loving kindness and your faithfulness every night. The Lord's faithfulness didn't change.
Right.
Even if it was a great day or even if it was an awful day, the Lord remains faithful. And even part of this podcast, as we're talking about the things that we're thankful for that happen throughout the year, some of the new things and different stuff like that, part of saying all of that is putting this into practice. We are declaring His faith. Look how the Lord has been faithful here at Camp Nathaniel over the past year. Look how He's shown His loving kindness as people have given their lives over to Jesus during the summer.
Yeah.
As staffers have been poured into, and as some things have gone great and some things have gone not great.
Right.
And the Lord has remained faithful through all of it. And that's
right. The next sections here, you've got kind of you got kind of two stanzas here, depending on how your psalm is broken up. But from verse 5 down to verse 9, you've got this contrast between basically the enemies of God, or just man to his own glory and his own exalting of himself, which in contrast is to not exalt God. It's considered foolish. It's considered wicked. They spring up like grass. All the workers of iniquity flourish. It is that they may be destroyed forever. I just keep thinking, I can imagine this being sung. This melodious sound. It is that they may be destroyed forever. I wasn't in tune there, but still, it's just funny to think that these things were sung, But then in contrast, the man withers, like the flower falls, and so life withers away so quickly, but the Lord is on high forevermore. Behold, your enemies shall perish. All the workers of iniquity shall be scattered. There's this contrast between the faithfulness of God, again, that God's purposes will stand, that man's purposes will fade. And then David goes in to say in verse 10, but my horn you have exalted like a wild ox.
Yeah.
That's just,
And part of this, I mean, a couple of things to remember as we're reading this here is that as we're describing the wicked of those who are against the Lord, remembering that we were once this way.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so, like, I don't want to get like, because sometimes when you read like, and the enemies, you always think, the other guy.
Yeah.
We never want to point it back at ourselves and go, actually, you were the enemy.
We who were once enemies of God. That's right.
You were the enemy that should be crushed in your foolish desires and whatnot. And that was me.
Yeah.
And because of his faithfulness and his lovingness, he's pulled me out of that. And there's something to be, and again, since his praise there's something to be excited about that.
That's right, because we go from this this contrast of the wicked to contrasting it with the righteous in the latter part of the psalm, and then when David starts by saying, "But my horn you have exalted like a wild ox," every time that we read it, somebody's always like, "That sounds really weird. What does that mean?" Well, a horn was a sign of was a representation of strength and power. So God has provided that for his people, for his servant David. And then they go on to explain, okay, my eyes also has seen my desire on my enemy, my ears hear my desire on the wicked who rise up against me. The righteous, however, shall flourish like the palm tree. He shall grow like a cedar in Lebanon. We have this poetic imagery here of stability, of strength, and it all is because of the faithfulness of God. All because of the faithfulness of God. Not because we're wise enough, not because we're strong enough, but in Christ we have all of our needs met, and we have deliverance. And
part of that also, to mix in there, it doesn't mean that everything's going to go great.
That's right.
Because as this is being written, I'm thinking of the book of Ecclesiastes, where the teacher in Ecclesiastes, he's going, listen, I look out on the world, and the guy that's doing what looks like he's doing everything, the guy who's doing everything right, everything's falling apart for him. And this guy over here who is wicked and is cheating and lying and stepping on people, life is going amazing for him. And he's like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And so part of these psalms, as they're singing them, it's almost in contrast, or I'm trying to think of the word now. In
comparison, or
in protest.
In protest. Okay,
it's almost like we're fighting against. Like, I look out on the world, and as you know, this psalm is typically attributed to David, as he's looking out on the world, and he's like, my enemies, they are knocking me down right now, but I know that that's not how things are going to be forever. and it might not turn out the way that I need it to, but then he can turn around and he can say things like, the righteous shall flourish like a palm tree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even if it doesn't look like it right now.
Right, because he knows God is in control of all of it.
Yeah.
And
he knows that it eventually will work out.
That's right. And he knows that God is faithful. He will work all things together for good for those who love him and are called according to his purpose. That does not tell us that all things will be good from our perspective.
Yeah.
But that we can trust that God knows what he's doing, and he will not allow his people to be forsaken. He will not forsake them. Mm-hmm. And then to declare, this is verse 15, to declare, this is how he ends it, to declare that the Lord is upright. He is my rock, and there is no unrighteousness in him. And I just love how he brings this back to a head, just saying, okay, the Lord is the attention getter of all of this. The fact that he is righteous, and because he is righteous, we can bank on everything that we just read. And
I like that he does like the negative in there.
Yeah, there is no unrighteousness in him.
It's not just here for him that the Lord is righteous.
Yeah.
Because you could look at a person and you could say, oh, that person is righteous, but they're going to have some unrighteousness mixed in.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they're righteous, but ever so often they mess up.
Yep.
Oh, they're righteous, but they don't always get it all right. But here's the Lord, and guess what, guys? He doesn't have 1 ounce of unrighteousness in him. It's not just that he is righteous, it's that he is absent of any unrighteousness.
That's good. Yep.
And that's just, I don't know, that encourages me to know that he's the one that's running it all, and it's not just that he's good,
mm-hmm.
but that he doesn't have any bad in him.
Yeah, there's no non-good.
Exactly. It's not a mix like me.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. You're very cornucopious, my friends.
Cornucopious today.
Man, this has been good, dude. It's always great just to sit down and that we can have a discussion about Scripture and find so many things to be thankful for. Hey, one thing that we're challenging our church with right now is to spend time each day, just kind of setting your alarm, whether it be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is, set your clock for a time frame and just spend that time thanking God for things. You know, not asking God, not requesting things of God, not suggesting things to God like we normally try to do in prayer sometimes, but just thanking God for what he's given you. And you'll be surprised to find out how much you have to be thankful for.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you ever get stuck, venture over to Psalm 92.
There you go.
And spend some time seeing what God did in the life of the psalmist here of 92, and spend some time reflecting on your own.
You know, Lee, we this is our second Thanksgiving episode since we've been doing the podcast like this, right?
You could almost say we've forgotten an old tradition. Tradition.
You know we had to, man. We had to before the show ended.
Now that we've done it twice, it's actually tradition.
Oh, man. Hey, Merry Thanksgiving, everybody.
Merry Thanksgiving.
We'll see you back here in about 14 or 15 days with, we'll start talking about Christmas at that point.
Yep.
All right, guys, have a great one.
See you.
Hey guys, real quick before we get out of here today, we wanted to go ahead and just let you guys know a little bit more details about a women's event we got coming up here really soon, and we've got Harley Kelly here in the studio to talk to us about it. Gonna throw things over to Lee. Lee?
Yeah.
Say hi to Harley.
Hi, Harley.
Hey, Lee.
We brought Harley
I'm
in.
here too, Harley.
Hey, Steven.
We brought Harley in because it's a women's event that is coming up, and as opposed to listening to Steven and Lee, who know somewhere between nothing and
let's get someone else in here who knows what they're talking about.
Actually knows what they're talking about, because we don't really know. So Harley, we have a women's event. When is this coming up?
Yeah, so it's coming up on December the 7th, so that's on a Saturday.
Okay.
It's going to be from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., so we're going to have lunch, which I'm really excited because if you guys know, Michelle makes some really good food.
Yeah.
So,
Very exciting.
yeah. So we want to, our whole theme is on fellowship. So we thought it would be cool to invite women to bring a recipe card with them. And we're going to do a recipe card swap. So if you have like a favorite recipe that you, it could be a Christmas recipe. It could be something you like to eat at or drink even at the holidays. Bring that on a card and we're going to actually do a recipe swap.
That's a really cool idea.
Yeah.
I'm just excited because there's more food that's getting shared around. Right? Like food ideas is always the what brings, I don't know, at least
people
together because we gather around food.
Yeah, and our theme is fellowship, so we thought that would be a good way to introduce things. So
Very cool idea.
Who's invited to this event?
Well, unfortunately, Lee, you are not invited to this event.
Man.
It's a women's event, so we want
You're gonna
women.
play a sad.
I'm gonna. Yeah, it's only fitting that we do it. I mean,
At least for me.
at least for you, man.
I might benefit from this though.
Yeah, that's true.
You get some good recipes out of
That's
it.
true.
Yeah,
That's
there
true.
you go. Maybe Tess will bring some home.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
And then, so what's the theme? The theme is fellowship.
Yes.
And what can somebody expect if they show up to this event?
Yeah.
Like, what's the idea?
We're going to really emphasize fellowship. So communion with one another. The narrowing in theme is more like the bread of life. So we're going to talk about Jesus, how he's the bread of life, how he leads us into communion with him and also with each other as Christians. So we're excited about it.
Very cool. So if somebody wants more info on this event, where can they find that?
Yeah, that you can go on our website at campnathaniel.org. You can register there or you can call the office, and I'm sure you'll be able to hear from Lee himself.
I hang out in the office a lot.
Yeah.
You do hang out in the office a lot.
So that's how you can find out more information, and you'll probably see some things maybe in the newspaper or on Facebook and things too. So
Very
Nice.
cool.
Is there a cost to it?
no, if you want to give a donation when you come, but there's no cost. So.
That's cool, man.
Very cool.
Anything that involves free and food,
Oh yeah.
you can't go wrong there.
And it's December, so hot chocolate and coffee.
Oh,
and
and hey,
all the good
I'll say this too.
things.
A lot of times with these women's events, like my wife Ashley and my girls come.
Yeah.
So is there like an age range here that we're talking?
No, if you feel like your daughter is old enough to come and not be a disruption, absolutely bring them with you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So take advantage of this, ladies. It's going to be a great time.
So one more time, December the
7th from 10 o'clock to 1.
from 10 to 1. You can register campnathaniel.org.
Yep.
And
And if you fail to register online, still come. We'll still have, people at the door.
So you can still
come.
show up.
Yeah. We're not going to turn anyone away. So
The registering online just helps them know ahead of time, kind of give them an idea of how much food to provide and stuff like that. So
And
it's very helpful. But
And if you do have food allergies, obviously we can't cater to everyone, but if you let us know that by registering, that helps us out too. So
very cool.
So if you're listening to this and you are a woman listening to this,
Yes.
you are invited. If you are a husband listening to this, guess what? You have information to give to your wife
There
now.
you go.
If you're leading a church around, if you're a pastor at a church, by all means, tell the women in your congregation. This is a great time for a lot of different churches to be able to come together and to fellowship.
absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Harley, thanks so much for sitting in and just giving us the info, giving us the rundown on the women's event coming up. And
Thanks for having me.
hey, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, see? Look at that. Or Merry or Happy.
You fixed it.
Merry Thanksgiving. What did I say last time?
Merry
You said
Thankmas.
Merry Thanksgiving and Happy Christmas.
Okay, got it. All right,
of the
good deal.
above.
All right, guys, everybody have a great week. We'll see you back here soon on The Voice of Camp Nathaniel.